Alright everyone, we are coming up on 5 minutes until our scheduled start time, coming up on 5. There is some track repair and wall repair ongoing from a previous incident at turn.
You don't get the label black sheep without doing something to earn it. Black sheep aren't bad, they just stand out from the crowd. They look at the status quo and say, we can do that better. And that's exactly what we do.
Big move down the inside for the
Oh,
lead from
Eli takes the lead.
This is going to come down to the finish. Kyle almost side by side, but a good exit will give Laura Eli the win here overall in the first round of the Porsche Sprint Challenge USA West Series.
It's hard to contain your excitement when you get something you've really wanted. Like the gold standard in automotive protection, WeatherTech floor liners. With deep sculpted channels and laser measured for total protection in the front, back, and even up the sides.
Dad, you're going viral.
What? WeatherTech me.
So don't be shy, enjoy. Order your premium American-made products at WeatherTech.com.
Well, at a track such as Watkins Glen International, speed is the name of the game, but especially when it's time for qualifying. We're here at Watkins Glen for the Porsche Sprint Challenge North America by Yokohama as the GT3 Cup Series gets ready to take off to set their fastest times this weekend. I'm Joe Peak, joined by Ryan Marine once again, but we have a special guest. We have Laura Eli with us, one of the drivers in the USA West Series. Thanks for joining us, Laura. We were just talking about how fast it is around this track. Do you think the drivers are maybe a bit nervous trying to take it right up to the edge for this one?
Yeah, I think so. It just depends on how often they've been here and how well they're comfortable in the car. You can get up to about 160 going into the bus stop, and there's no second gear corners here, so everything is fast and sweeping, and got to be really confident in your abilities in the car.
I can only imagine. Ryan, we were watching the Caymans a little bit earlier today. Thankfully, that one went completely clean. Unfortunately, we've been sharing the weekend with some other driving schools out here. It sounds like we might be waiting a bit for a few repairs to wrap up. That doesn't bode well for our drivers if they're getting ready to go and they're having to wait to see if the Armco is in the right spot.
No, that's not what you want. It just adds to that level of apprehension, that's for sure. Hopefully everyone's okay. Hopefully it's a quick cleanup as well, trying to get those barriers in order and ensuring we have a safe racetrack to be able to go and qualify. But as you guys have talked about, this is a fast track. There aren't many low-speed corners around this place, and so with that in mind, it's not the easiest place to get an overtake done, and qualifying is certainly going to be at a premium, especially in this short race format that we have in Porsche Sprint Challenge. So a lot riding on this, not just for race 1, but in all likelihood this will go a long way to setting the grid for race 2 too. So you need to have not just 1, but 2 fast laps here in this qualifying session to maximize your opportunity.
Well, the good news is we can see from the Yokohama blimp that it looks like they're taking off from the inner loop, so it looks like they've gotten the repairs done. So we shouldn't have too long of a delay. We were supposed to have cars on the track at about 20 after the hour. It is now 22 after the hour, and there you can see them all lined up and ready to go. I imagine it's probably getting a little bit warmer out on the track as well there, Laura. That's going to make it interesting in some of these fast sweepers out there. We saw in the Caymans it seemed like some of the early laps were kind of the one to aim for.
Yeah, typically with the Yokohama tires, the first 2 flyers after your out lap or first 3 laps are typically where the window is for the fastest times. I know they're all trying to make a good gap so they're not catching someone in front of them. That was something that happened at VIR where they had a lot of jostling for position and ended up having some challenges with that. But I think they had a good drivers meeting today.
We are 1 minute away from the start of our GT3 qualifying session. 1 minute.
There we go.
And I think everyone's going to play well together today, so it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, this group definitely does a pretty good job about keeping good relations with one another, but when they're in the car, I'm sure that all kind of goes out the window, and everybody is a competitor, Ryan. Everybody is looking to do their absolute best, and they want to win.
Certainly, and it starts here in qualifying, trying to get pole position, start as far up as you can to maximize your chances of winning. You know, we talked about, too, the importance of maximizing your tire life, and if it is the first 2 laps that are your best, what we saw in Cayman qualifying, let's file this away, track limits is going to be a talking point. A couple of turns here, you can exceed those track limits without running anything hard, and so it's incumbent upon the stewards to start to police that. We saw Carolyn Conda in the Cayman qualifying on her first flying lap, which was her best lap. She exceeded those track limits a little bit. That lap was wiped away, and then she did not have that peak tire life to go after a potential pole position. So drivers will need to be aware of that. Yes, you want to push, you want to maximize those 2 laps where you have the tires at their peak, but you exceed those track limits, and it can only be a matter of inches, and all of a sudden your hard work is wiped away.
Yeah, in fact, she was on provisional pole initially with that lap time. I'll have to check and see if I can find out what that time would have been and where it would have put her had it been within the bounds. But we watch from onboard John Gilliland getting ready to start up. He is trying to weave the tires to get a little bit of heat into them. I was watching John, Laura, and he was one of the drivers that was definitely a little bit more aggressive on the curbs around here. I know you said it's been a bit since you were last year. Have you been here since the repave?
No, my last time here was 2018, and it was with PCA Club Racing, and I was co-driving in the Enduro with my friend.
So maybe it's slightly different from your experiences as well, no doubt. But we're coming up to one of the big talking points, this inner loop where those curbs can make or break. We've been talking to the drivers about the reprofiling of that. If you look on the right-hand side of the screen, can't quite see it in the picture, it looks like, but they've added 2 pyramid curbs on the inside. That was for NASCAR, for the Cup cars that race here. And that is definitely a big no-no from one of the what the drivers are telling me, that if you hit that thing, one of them described it as knocking your fillings loose.
Well, you said make or break, and break might be the operative word. A number of drivers have talked about the fact that you hit that curb wrong and you can actually damage the race car a little bit. So they'll need to be aware of that. But the other side of the equation is the way that it's been reprofiled. Getting down close to those curbs is where a lot of speed can be found on corner entry. So you're flirting with some pretty fine margins where you need to get down close in order to extract the speed you're looking for, but you throw that off by an inch or two and it can have catastrophic consequences.
Well, they're finishing up this warm-up lap here. Should be getting going soon. Now we'll have multiple classes in this series. If you watched the Caymans just a couple hours ago, we had only 2. This time, there are 3. Now we have the 992 Pro-Ams that you'll see out there with the black on the side of their number plates, and then you will have the 992 Masters. Those will be blue on the sides of theirs. And then the 991s will be the red ones that you see on the side of those number plates. So that's how you tell those drivers apart. They are all competing for the same places on the grid, but they will not be racing against one another for points. And we have seen in the past, Laura, that trying to keep from being separated by cars that are out of class can make a big difference in the race itself.
Oh, yeah, definitely during the race. Good thing about qualifying is everyone's lined up by their practice time. So typically you get your gap and you stay in that area until after you've done your flyers, and then you just have to be careful not to slow down anyone else that's still trying to make some time.
The Yasui Tower on the left. That'll keep us abreast of who is where out there, along with the various color codes for who is in what class, but don't be surprised if they are a little bit jumbled up out there over the course of things. The 992 Pro-Am has been pretty much going the way of Jared Thomas for much of the season, but it is the 992 Masters, which has definitely been the series that has been quite hot. It is the biggest of the classes that we have out there. 16 cars competing in that class alone this weekend. So it remains tight, or at least tight comparatively, in the points, with 4 different winners, Ryan, sharing the top step this season already.
Yeah, 4 winners, 4 drivers within 84 points of one another at this stage in the season, where we do start talking championship a little bit more. It's coming more into focus. It is a fairly solid lead, though, it must be said, for Mark Bowden, who swept the weekend at VIR. That helped him extend that advantage. It's up to 64 points now over Scott Blend, John Gilliland, and Joel Johnson, the rest of the top 4. It's really those 4, I think, that have separated themselves from the likes of Jody Miller and Rob Walker and others. It seems like a 4-horse race at this point, but a pretty heavy advantage for Mark Bowden, and on the strength of what he's done over the past handful of races, really extending that margin.
They say consistency wins championships, and that's one thing that he's been quite good at so far this season. Provisionally, looks like Ashley Freiberg, who was quickest in practice too, which gave her the first spot there, Laura, has managed to bring herself up to the top. Jared Thomas has been her rival for quite a while now, and he's about 2/10 off, it seems.
Yeah, Ashley's doing great. She on a new team, as you know, and Kelly Moss has really stepped up her game. I know she loves this place, and she was very confident going into the weekend. Jared's a tough competitor. The guy's, in a bunch of other series and does really well. Good in tight quarters, and he's tough. I think right now they're 2/10 apart, but I know they're on the radio probably rooting both of them on to try to get their best laps now.
And you know Ashley well. You drove with her in the endurance race at Circuit of the Americas, did you not?
Well, we were slated to drive together,
okay.
and I made a mistake in the second race, and that didn't allow us to compete in the first Enduro. But we will be together for Road America.
We're looking forward to seeing you two back together for that.
Car 219, 219, track limits at turn 1 on lap 2. Car 219, lap 2.
So already got somebody that's naughty. That is Greg Shermer for Fall Line, who's going to have a lap most likely deleted because of that. Scott Blend impressing there for the Masters as he was in third. Now Paul Bocuse has gone a bit quicker than him, but Scott backs it up with a 150.2.
Pit in. We have an incident. There's a car.
Oh, that's at the pit entry.
Right at pit in. Let's go red flag, everyone.
And
red
that
flag.
is
We're
going
gonna
to
go
stop the
down
session.
to car 210 at the pit in. We are red flag.
Unfortunately, Jody Miller in the 210 car has found the barrels, and in fact looks like he has truly obliterated them.
All right, everyone, the pit in is blocked. Let's all line up at the pit
Wow.
in. The pit in is blocked. Let's line up. We've got the safety headed to clear the pit in.
So, and that explains why I saw that the red car come on up, and now we are able to see what they mean. This is a bizarre one. I've seen those barrels get hit before, Ryan, but I don't think I've ever quite seen it this bad.
Well, what they're there for is to obstruct any kind of direct contact with the sharp end of that pit wall that you see there. And so they've done their job in that regard, helped deflect that car away and absorb quite a bit of that energy. But it does come at a difficult spot on the track there where under a red flag, ideally, you'd like to make your way into the pits, but that's clearly not going to be possible with the track obstructed like this, and so race control and these teams' drivers will have to adapt on the fly, and right now we're just hoping for the best for Jody Miller from Vero Beach, Florida, finished third in the 992 AM Championship last year, as it was called back then. That's now the Masters category. Came into this weekend fifth in points, and certainly a big impact for Jody.
And hopefully he is okay on that. With the barrels kind of scattered about, Laura, at least it should have spread the impact out a bit, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's hard to say what happened. He probably just lost it coming out of the last corner and looped around. Looks like he's okay getting out of the car. A little upset, I'm sure, because he damaged his car. But challenge now for qualifying is not everyone's had two flyers, so here you are with the red flag with 16 minutes or so to go, and whether or not they can get that debris cleared and get them re-going, that's going to be a big question.
It's a good point that you make about not everyone getting the second lap. Jared Thomas did, and that jumped him to provisional pole at a 149.227. Crucially, though, Ashley Freiberg has not. She has just that one lap on the board. Actually, she does have a second, I'm sorry. The fast one, though, was the first one. So I think the second one was perhaps impacted a little bit.
Yeah, now you can see on the timing and scoring that several of them only have one lap in. But yeah, I don't know if they're going to have spare barrels, to keep that safe at that end of the track there. And clearly, they're not going to restart it without having some safety measures in place.
In fact, it looks like he managed to hit every single one, because you can see where they're normally placed from our images here. Ryan, you've noticed something here? What have you spotted?
Well, just you could see the barrels were full of sand, and so with the barrels breaking up the way that they did, now that's incumbent upon the track crew to clear all of that sand away from the pit lane, and I think it's prudent there from race control not to run the cars with hot tires through that sand and potentially pick up some kind of debris that could cause a puncture or otherwise damage the Yokohama tires. So I think it's a pretty smart call, and now this track crew's got a lot of work to do to try and clean this up. I suspect they do have spare barrels, but they're going to have to be retrieved and put in place, and you can kind of see where they were lined up with those black circles. That's where they're lined up, and they served their purpose. But if this was bowling, I think Jody bowled a strike. As you said, he knocked out all of them there. It was right down the middle.
Well, I guess all the gold bowling sponsorship
That's
around
right.
here served its purpose, but I'm mostly glad that Jody is out and is okay. I understand he's upset, but yeah, you're coming off that corner pretty fast a lot of times. We don't know what happened, Laura, but my guess would be I've seen plenty of drivers just overcook it and lose the rear coming off of there.
Yeah, you can kind of see the tire marks right up to where the barrels were sitting, and most likely he just lost it coming out of turn 11 and nowhere to go. I mean, that's the challenge here at Watkins Glen, is to try not to have that happen, and unfortunately it couldn't have happened to a better person. Jody's a great competitor and a really great guy.
Should maybe take inventory of who did get the second lap in, because that will be crucial from a qualifying perspective, with the fastest lap setting the grid for lap 1, second fastest lap setting the grid for lap 2, unless you have a faster race lap in race number 1, and I think a few folks are going to need that to determine their starting order for race 2. So Jared Thomas, Ashley Freiberg, Paul Bocuse, Scott Blend, Conrad Geiss, and John Gilliland all did get a second lap in. Everyone else only is credited with one lap before the red flag came out. So for the rest of them, with only 12 and a half minutes left in this qualifying session, it looks like it's going to be incumbent upon them during the race to find some clear track to try and lay down a good lap if they can, with race 2 of the weekend on Sunday in mind.
And we have to remember there's going to be some people out of position because that first lap might not be really the ultimate pace of that driver. I'm looking specifically at our points leader, Mark Bowden, 20th overall. He is going to have some hard work, and like I said, consistency wins championships. Well, he's going to have to earn it this time. That is for sure. Tim Kesman as well, who we were praising before we came live for his speed. He's just ahead of him in 19th. That's going to make life quite difficult for him. Shane Leathers down in 16th in the Pro-Ams. He has got a lot of cars in front of him, so I imagine that's not going to be a fun day. And Therese Laloux, 14th overall. So Lalu, excuse me. The 242 going to have a difficult day at the start of the race, and you can see them now continuing the sweep up of the sand. I saw our cameras had managed to find some of the spare barrels, and in fact, I see them there in the background now. So yeah, they've already got the forklift ready to go, and I imagine they have experienced this a few times over the years, so they probably have a whole process in place.
Yeah, it's hard to say if they can get all that done in 11 minutes. And, I know the race director, John Maskey, may decide to extend the session, but I doubt it. They rarely do that, even though they have some extra track time this weekend.
Yeah, they've been sharing a lot of it with the various driver education programs, so I'm not sure that they'll have enough time, honestly. Looking at it, usually from what I heard, it's been 10 minutes between sessions. Now, I guess the good news is they do have lunch after this instead of another driver education group. If they want to take everybody's lunch break away, as we see the line of cars around the final turn, they might have the option to extend it. But like you said, it does seem rare that they do that. So I don't know on the likelihood. We'll wait and listen to race control to see if they give us any more information here.
Yeah, in my experience in the series, we had a similar situation at Spring Mountain where they delayed the session, but they didn't extend the session.
Well, Laura, let's talk a little bit about your season. You're a former champion in Porsche Sprint Challenge. You're running the USA West schedule this year with the Black Sheep team. How has the start to the year gone, and what are your expectations looking ahead to the final half of the year?
Well, the start of the year was very good. I won the first race overall, and actually was my first overall win in Sprint Challenge since I started in the 991 3 years ago. And we were going pretty well. Entered Coda in second place, just 2 points behind Kevin Woods, who's a really, really good competitor and a good racer with BR Racing. And unfortunately, in the second event, I made too many mistakes, and after leaving the event, and anyway, Laguna, we had another kind of rough weekend. I had an incident in the first race, and but Sunday went well, and I'm currently third in points. I think I'm 3 points out of second place with Jim Walsh, and Jim's another great competitor. He and I've raced for years, also with Kevin in the West.
They currently are. They're going to stay behind the car in front of them. They're going to come down the front straightaway, turn around at the pit exit, and come counter into the pit lane. Let's make sure that when we're following the car in front of us, we're staying on the front straightaway of the racetrack, down to the pit exit, turn around, and come counter into the pit lane, and clear behind the wall and head directly to Park Ferme from there.
So yeah, back to my season with 2 more event weekends to go and 4 more races. First place is a little far out unless they have some challenges getting the car into a race, but looks like right now I'm competing for P2 for the series this year.
Well, and the remaining 2 rounds going to be shared with the North America Series with Road America and Sonoma. How do you feel your performances have been at those 2 tracks in the past?
Yeah, so Road America is one of my other favorite tracks, and have a good time there. Looking forward to doing the Enduro this time with Ashley. She and I aren't going to have the penalty that some of the cars will have for the pit stop, so that should help us run at the sharp end of the stick, they say.
Well, that'll be fun to watch for sure, and having both the series together. Going to make it a busy pit lane and paddock, but will give us a lot of enjoyment, a lot of racing. This is kind of an interesting one, Ryan, because we don't often hear race control instruct cars to go backwards on the track. That's a rare thing there. But we do have our results up on the screen, and Jared Thomas is going to be our provisional pole sitter with Ashley Freiberg in second, Paul Bocuse in third, Scott Blend, our Masters pole sitter, but fourth overall, Conrad Geiss in P5, the Rob Walker second within that Masters class, sixth overall. Then you've got John Gilliland, P7, David Musial 2.0 in the eighth position, and Joel Johnson ninth. Niels Meissner, pole sitter for the 991s, as well as 10th overall. You get to the second page with Musial Sr., the next one in 11th, Jody Miller, P12, Eric Lappin, 13th, and Therese Lalu in the 14th spot. Then Tony Melito gets to our next car down in the 991s. We've seen this a lot with Meissner gapping the rest of the field. Melito will be 15th overall. Shane Leathers, 16th. Willingham, 17th. Womack, Kesman, and Bowden rounding out your top 20. And like I said, it's a big field in this group. We still have 9 more cars in it, as I think that might wrap it up for our coverage. Can't thank you enough, Laura, for joining us, and hopefully we'll have a little bit more racing action back for the first race in these GT3 Cup cars.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was really great to share my background and insight with you guys, and both of you do an awesome job.
Well, thank you so much. Again, I'm Joe Peak. This was Laura Eli and Ryan Marine up with us. We'll be back a little bit later this afternoon for the first Cayman race in the Porsche Sprint Challenge North America Series. Race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.